I got a request to do some picking exercises, so here's the ones that I get my students to do. First one is just here's like one of the best ones that was taught to me, and it's a little bit of a simplification of it, but this will really help you to learn how to pick. So what the idea is you're going to go down on the G string, up on the B string, down on this one, on the E, and then up on B. So it's just the thing is you have to go down, up, down, up. So down on G, up on B, down on E, up on B, and then down on G. So I'll put my hand really close for a minute, so it should be, because I'm not using my left hand for this. Down, up, up. It's hard to explain how helpful this is if you start to practice it. Down, up, down, up. So you just want to learn how to do this. Now there's a few things. One thing, a lot of beginners, when they're holding a pick, they do a few things wrong. One thing is they clench their fist up like this. This makes it a lot harder to pick fast because your hand's all tight. If you feel the muscles in your hand when you do that, they clench up, they get all tight, and your hand's like heavier. So I mean, sometimes it's good to clench your fist, but a lot of times you want to keep your hand more loose. So what I do is actually force my students to keep their fingers out, because then it forces you to keep your hand loose. Or you can curl them up, they need to be loose. But when you're first starting, just keep your fingers out. And actually a lot of times it's more comfortable to do that. So keep your fingers out. The other thing is, don't let too much of the pick stick out, because then you kind of get like a snag. So when you're practicing this exercise, just experiment. Like let me see if I hold it natural for a second. Sometimes when you're teaching, it's easy to not do stuff how you actually do it. So I'm holding it like that. So that's what the pick looks like when I'm holding it. It kind of sticks out like perpendicular to my thumb. Sometimes I'll angle a little bit more, it will stick out more like that a little bit. But it doesn't stick like straight out. It doesn't stick straight out of my thumb. So let me do it one more time. So again, I'm holding it kind of like that. So sometimes what I'll do is put my student's finger, like, you can take the pick and like lay it on your finger. It's hard to show this, but kind of like you lay it on there like that, and then you put your thumb on top. So once you kind of hold the pick the right way, keep these fingers out, keep them loose. And then the really important thing is make sure that you don't put your hand out here like I was, that you actually put it on the bridge. So you got to actually put your hand back here. So my bridge is all the way back here. And you want to lay the side of your hand on that bridge, and then get used to doing down, up, down, up. So that's really fast, but you start out just slow, like down, up, down, up. And after a while, you start to get this feeling, you can just start to go fast. One other trick is you can try experimenting using the round part of the pick instead of the pointy part, and just do the same exercise, down, up, down, up. Make sure your hand's on the bridge, like the side of your hand is on the bridge. So here's my bridge. It's a little bit harder to see on this guitar than some, but you lay the side of your hand on it, not like that, just kind of, so like this part of your, right about there, just rests on it. And depending on where you're playing, like if you're lower on the guitar, you actually have to move your hand up here more. Then as I move up higher, it kind of creeps up. Notice my fingers aren't tight. You can do that, but it's better to keep them loose. down, up, down, up. And like change the speed, start out real slow, down, up, down, up. And go faster. So aside from those things, the last thing I would say is you don't, when you're picking, you don't want to go like, don't go like this. A lot of beginners, they want to like, they either do two things. They either want to get all the motion from their elbow, which is like what a lot of people do. So they're kind of like, first of all, if your hand's not planted here, a lot of people will go like, see my motion's coming from my elbow. That's just like really awkward and hard to do. So once you plant your hand here, that's not really possible anymore. But then you don't want all your motion to even come from your wrist. You don't want to be like, see how like it just feels weird. What I'm actually doing is a little bit of motion's coming from my wrist. You can see a tiny bit. See my wrist is moving. But watch my fingers. See, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but my fingers are moving. See, they're going like this. They're kind of going like moving in and out. So what's happening is when you're hitting the string, if this was the string, it's kind of like you're going a little bit with your fingers and your wrist at the same time. So you're kind of moving like this. So you can actually practice this on a flat surface, and what kind of gives the feeling is just sticking your fingers out straight while you're holding the pick. Because this is kind of what's happening. So if you take the pick and you stick your fingers like holding it, just stick them out straight and pull them back up. If you learn how to do that, you'll start to notice your fingers sort of move. And this exercise like will force you to get that feeling if you start doing down, up, and go fast. See, my wrist is it's barely moving. It's pretty planted. A lot of it's coming from just my fingers, and my hands moving a tiny bit also, like from the wrist, but not like a big motion. It's just sort of changing the direction, but a lot of the motion is coming from my fingers, just slightly doing that, just slightly moving. So anyways, that's the best exercise, I think, when you're first learning. Just take those strings, and if that gets boring, you can also, like, if you know a power chord, you can do the same exercise on a power chord. Just see, it's the same thing. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So just take any 3-note shape. Like I used to actually, when I practice this, I would do it on D major. I would use the round side sometimes, right there I'm getting some snag. I'm not doing it that well. I don't practice that much anymore. You can get really fast at it, and you can get more creative. If this gets boring, you can be like, you can move like little shapes around, whatever you know. But the main one is just open strings. So that's the first exercise I would highly recommend you get good at, and it will force kind of these correct motions. It'll get your hand to stay loose, and the faster you go and can play it well, you start to learn how much pressure to hold the pick. Because one other thing is, beginners a lot of times hold the pick really tight, and that's too hard to play like. So you actually start to figure out, like, you hold it just as tight as you need so it doesn't fly out of your fingers, and it's sort of a feeling that you just get from practicing. So anyways, hope that was helpful. Bye.